everybody, welcome to Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page. On this episode, a true restaurant family. Joe Busalacchi, born in Sicily, grew up to become a restaurateur in San Diego, then brought the next generation into the business. I began chatting with his nephew Nino and son PJ, and eventually Joe himself would crash the party. Gentlemen, how are you? Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having us. Good morning.
Thank you.
I just want to be clear, it's Busalacchi, right?
Correct.
So why do people call it bruschetta?
Nino's the fluent Italian here. So Nino, describe.
Well, just open up the dictionary, and when you read it, it'll say bruschetta. It'll say it the way it's supposed to be said. It's spelled differently, though.
Yeah, okay.
I've been through this. We had a restaurant called La Bruschetta. That's why I know.
So let me get this straight. You guys are cousins.
My mother and his dad are brother and sister.
Okay, and his dad, your dad, PJ,
Yes.
started this all, correct?
Yes. Correct. Yes.
He's also my godfather, so it makes it worse. I get it twice as bad as everybody else.
How did this all begin?
So I'll take the reins here, Nino. If you
No, go ahead.
fill in, you've been around longer than I have, but
Thank you for telling everybody.
my parents, or my dad, and his mom, and the rest of his siblings and parents came to the United States from Sicily in 1968, 66, something like that.
68 to 69.
So they're immigrants from Sicily, came directly to San Diego. My grandfather was a fisherman, and they thought, okay, San Diego would be a good place to keep that fishing industry going. So they came here to do some fishing, and my grandfather fished for a little bit, but ultimately decided he didn't want to do that any longer, and so basically raised 7 kids here in San Diego, and a bunch of the kids did different things. My dad specifically kind of had always wanted to be in the restaurant business.
But before that, they went fishing. They were tuna fishermen.
All of them were tuna fishermen. My dad was a cook on a fishing boat for 4 or 5 years, and then just kind of worked in some odd jobs in the restaurants, at different restaurants. Met my mom, they got married, and they opened up their first place, which was a pizza by the slice and pizza delivery place in a food court, in the mall. Then they opened up their first full-fledged restaurant in 1986.
Which one was that?
That was Busalacchi's. But picture this mall in an 80s setting. So if you've ever seen any of these 80s movies like Weird Science or all these movies where all the kids went to the shopping center, that's where everybody was. Movie theater, shopping centers, it was that time where everybody just hung out there. So then in the same shopping center, he decided to open up another spot. And I'm talking about like 700 square foot places that we were just killing it. And I was reason why I know is because I was a little kid. So think about it. In 82, I was 11 years old. So when I was probably about 13 years old, I started working with him. And literally just would stand on a milk crate, taught me how to make pizza, and just, little by little, I'm surprised he had the patience, because he wasn't a very patient guy sometimes.
And then him and my mom opened up their first, fine dining Italian, or at that time they called it Sicilian restaurant, because my dad always wanted to bring kind of the cuisine of Sicily to San Diego. And they opened up their first restaurant, which was called, our last name, Busalacchi's. It was in a decent part of town. There weren't many restaurants here in San Diego, but he did open up to a very successful Italian restaurant next door, and just thought to himself, hey, if I can get the business from the guys next door, I'll be okay.
Wait. So he picked a location next to another Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
A very busy, famous Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Hoping to siphon, like the Carnegie and Stage delis were back to back in New York.
He was not hoping to drive them out of business. He was just hoping to just get business. He wasn't trying to put anybody out of business. It just naturally happened.
Yeah, so they went out of business. I think 3 or 4 years later, probably me, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and
The competitor.
correct. Yeah.
But I get to tell you the truth. I always knew my uncle was gonna. He was too talented to have a little tiny pizza place. It was just, it was like everything was that for him was that extra step. He took a little more time. Like he would make. See, back then you didn't have to tell people what was in stuff. You could just make it and not have to tell them that there was onions and anchovies in the pizza sauce. And he just took that extra step to make everything a little better. So you could tell this is a guy that just had the drive. It was just like, this guy is going no matter what. It's gonna happen. I don't know when, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So he basically, it was in his mind that was gonna happen.
Is Busalacchi still open?
Unfortunately, no, it's not. It was. I think it closed at its probably close to 35-year mark or something like that. Just kind of the neighborhood started to decline a little bit, and
the
just
whole
time.
dynamic
Yeah,
changed,
it was just time. It was fine dining. It was that old school kind of Italian restaurant where the waiters are wearing tuxedos and et cetera, et cetera. So
I miss that.
and it's funny now that we're out of that era, if you will. I think that if you brought it back in a maybe tiny bit more modern setting, I think it would do really well, because I think a lot of people share your same sentiment. Like, hey, we miss that. We miss that like tuxedo vibe, old school Italian.
But I will tell you, like I said, so being around, I think I was about 15 years old, and seeing the people that went through that restaurant, insane. Like when I remember the people that came through that place, I'm talking about, San Diego back then wasn't anything big to come out to, but we would get like the biggest stars would come in that place. In fact, when you walked in, there was a wall. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, of course.
A wall full of all the famous people that had been there. It was a thing back then. Somebody famous came in, you get their picture, they sign it.
Like who?
From everyone to Bob Dole to
Tommy Lasorda, Bob Dole. Who's the one that's an actor?
Mariah Carey to
you know what? LL Cool J came in. When my uncle had no clue who this guy is, I'm 16 years old, and I'm like, hey, that's LL Cool J. He's a rapper. He goes, what is LL Cool J? I said, don't worry, you don't need to know. But let's see, who else came in there? I mean,
tons.
Baseball players. What is it? What are these guys' names? I'm trying to think of. The one that I know,
Andrea Bocelli, like everyone, and
Henry Mancini, the guy that does all the music for all the movies and all the TV shows. Aaron Spelling. I'm talking about everybody. Like I can't even think of the names right now.
And what were you serving them?
I think the intention of opening up this restaurant for my dad, it was that he wanted to bring his Sicilian heritage to a restaurant and really bring the things that he knew and loved into a restaurant where America just hadn't really seen before. He talks about, just I'm using this as an example, calamari being like, I don't know, 10 cents a pound or something crazy like that.
When it was bait.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly. Yes.
So, all these things that he did for a really long time. And once I get into the story about how we went further and opened up more restaurants, I think it was challenging to be able to get that American palate back to maybe some more sophisticated flavors and ingredients. And but he did that Sicilian kind of style cooking. Nino can maybe go into more.
It was. I tell you the truth. Was a chef now and a chef back then, two different people. You had to be real creative. You couldn't buy anything. You literally had to make everything. It's not like you could say, you know what, I don't want to make the raviolis. I want to buy them already made. Impossible. Nowadays, you buy clean calamari. We used to have to clean our own calamari. We used to have to bake our own bread. You couldn't get anything. It wasn't at that point yet. We were a little before our time, to start doing that.
Well, how'd the other restaurants, what was the path of the family business?
Yeah, so when he was really obviously very successful in Busalacchi's for probably, I
Which
guess.
success, I don't want to say it happened overnight, but like literally within a year and a half, like it was on the map. It was a
And
place
were you guys both involved as kids?
He wasn't born yet.
I wasn't born.
He wasn't born yet.
But-
I was.
But he was, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So then in 1993, in the neighborhood that is now Little Italy, he came to this neighborhood that he grew up in. Essentially, it was a neighborhood that wasn't yet deemed Little Italy. There were maybe 3 restaurants at the time. There were
Not developed at all.
yeah, nowhere near developed as it is today. And he took a chance on a space in Little Italy in 1993 or 4.
We started in '92, and then in '93 we opened up.
Yeah.
Okay,
And,
what'd you open up? What was the second
We
restaurant?
opened up a restaurant called Trattoria Fantastica. It was a tiny 2,000 square foot place. And he called me up one day. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Quit your job." He goes, "I found a location."
Were you the chef?
He was teaching me at the time. Yes, I was.
Is that how you do you have formal training
That's how I learned.
from your uncle?
100%. Obviously, throughout the years, and you know, if it's something you like, it's like an art. You start creating your own stuff. So all these years later, that's where we're at. He was a very creative person, so obviously, you work with somebody like that all your life. I've only worked with him for, let me say, about 40 years. That's it.
You guys were in the process of building what has now become an empire.
Hey, listen, we got a surprise for you.
Dad, come in real quick. Here he is.
There he is.
Oh.
Stick your
Dad,
face.
stick your face
No,
in.
wait. You sit here. Wait, hold on. No, sit right here. Sit down. It's about you. How's that better than we got?
Is this your dad?
Surprise guest here, yeah. Joe Busalacchi, the guy who started it all.
Joe, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So
He
you
doesn't know
started.
this is live. You better tell him.
Oh, is this live?
Yeah.
No, it's not live.
Can
Well,
I
let me
at
get
least
this
fix my
straight.
hair?
You came from Sicily.
Yes, I did.
How old were you when you came over?
I was 9 years old when I came.
How'd you get in the restaurant biz?
Growing up in Sicily, watching my mother and spending a lot of time in the kitchen with my mom, a passion started. And I love food, as you could see.
Now you're looking good, Joe.
Thank you. You
I'm
too.
the one that's hiding back here. I'm the fat one.
But that's how I started. And then when I went to high school, then I decided, my dad was a tuna fisherman locally here
Right.
in San Diego. And then I decided to go as a chef out on these big seiners, 1,200-ton boats that would go all over. And I spent months and years in the middle of the ocean cooking for 22 guys.
Were you trained?
Yeah, at that point, yes, I was a little trained, but not schooling, but just variety of foods that I was encountering and self-taught and
Your mom.
read a lot of books. My mom was a big inspiration in my life.
Well, when
So-
did you drag these two reprobates into the business?
Well, this one in the back, Nino, he was a youngster at the time. And I had a little pizza joint. And his dad asked me if he could come and help me at the pizza joint. And then he ended up coming. I think at that time, he was like 12, 13 years old. And so he learned how to make pizzas and other types of food. And then his idea was, I want to open up a restaurant. He got to be about 19. And we finally found a spot here, Little Italy. And he said, "Uncle Joe, would you go in with me? I want to open up a restaurant." I said, "Okay, if that's what you want to do." And here we are. So my kids, this one was going to be a lawyer and decided to be in the restaurant business. One was going to be a doctor, and he decided to go back to the restaurant. And then you got someone who's in Hollywood, who's a scriptwriter and whatever, ends up here too. So now I got all the 3 eggs here, and my nephew's the 4th.
What is it about the food you cook that is special?
What's special about it is the ingredients. You can be a great chef, but if you don't have the right ingredients, the fresh ingredients, I can't see how you could prepare an incredible meal. So I think I was taught to use the right products and to use the right olive oils, the right ingredients to make a great meal. And being taught that doesn't, it stays on your mind. So when you're trying, like our food here is with love. It's not about, oh, let's get the dish out. It's about, I'm going to eat it first, and then I'm going to serve it. Because I want somebody to go, that was excellent.
It's like I said on that little pizza plates he had. What did I tell you before? I said he took that extra step to do extra things that other pizza places didn't do. Seriously. So you kind of already knew what was coming.
Yeah, it wasn't all about money. It was about trying to make a name for myself. And to do that, I had to spend a lot of time and effort to go the long route to get the food where I wanted it to and the way I was taught. And it's kind of a home cooking.
Well, what is Sicilian home cooking? I mean, people talk about Italian food without realizing that Italian food is extremely regional.
Every region has different types of food, you know, some with creams, some with red sauces. The Southern is now the influence of the North of also make cream sauces too. I think Sicily has the mountains. It's like California, the mountains, the ocean. And so our food is basically fresh fish, little on the meat portion of it, a lot of great vegetables, and a lot of good growing stuff. You know, the tomatoes are amazing, the buffalo mozzarella, and all these Parmigiano, all that stuff is just, you know, you use the right product, like I said, you're going to get a great dish.
Okay, so how'd you build the empire? And when did you drag PJ in?
The empire was in 1986. I just got out of the fishing industry, and I opened up a little joint, little restaurant on Fifth Avenue. And I started out with one stove and 2 people in the back of the kitchen. And
this place was an old house.
Yeah, it was an old 90-year-old home. I turned it into a Sicilian restaurant that San Diego, you know, hasn't seen. And I brought my dishes there, and we started out with one stove. We ended up with 4 stoves, and we were the busiest place in town, basically, because I cared. I cared about the food. I watched the plates coming in from the dining room coming in. If it wasn't empty, I would say, go back, find out why she left the portion. So, because it was too much, because it was too full. So I cared, and I would never take a day off, because if some customers would come, I wanted to be there. And if it was Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, it was my first way of showing up to make sure I could take care of my customers. Because at the time, we didn't have these phones where you click it on. So it was word of mouth.
No social media.
So I worked extra hard to get where I wanted, and I wanted it bad enough to give it all. And then after that, I opened up in India Street with Nino. My kids were still younger, and we did from $40,000 a month to $180,000 a month. So we were making fresh pasta in the dining room and all that good stuff. Then the people on India Street, there was nothing here. So then the people that own little buildings would come up and say, "Hey, Joe, how about taking my spot here? You know, I'll give it to you for 50 cents a square foot at the time." So, and then that's how we grew the empire. And then PJ decided...
Sorry, real quick. And then from, just to get you a better picture, basically 3 blocks worth, there was two blocks, 2.5 blocks-ish from 1993 to 2009, 10. There was seven restaurants in Little Italy. Again, Little Italy wasn't what it is now, so I'd be the first one to say, and a lot of people would be the first one to say, that he is this trailblazer down here in this neighborhood, and if they don't build a statue of him, we're gonna riot in the streets when he passes.
Oh, I have to pass.
I mean,
PJ, how did you end up as, you were the little kid, you weren't born when he started. How'd they drag you in? Were you cooking as a kid?
No, so I'm the youngest of three boys. My oldest brother Joey has basically always, after he graduated from high school, and like my dad mentioned, after he decided he didn't want to become a doctor, he came back to this business and basically has worked his way up the ranks since he was about 21. And we've always worked in this business. We've always done every single part of this business in the summer, on the side, while we're going to school, basically from, all the way up from dishwashing to serving to now just being this guy's right hand to help run these business efficiently, and really just take on this family legacy of this business. None of us are chefs. We know our way around the kitchen, obviously, because we've been in this business for so long. I tell people this all the time. He does complain about us being in this business, but it's like, why? Tiger Woods' son.
Well, I think you need to be dedicated. I think
and they're not dedicated enough for you.
No, they're dedicated, but
he wants us to bring our beds here so we can sleep.
No, I think it's so important that businesses run. Nowadays you run it. That you think you could run it being at home, and it doesn't work like that. Even though with the new technology, it's a little different. But it was shaking hands, making sure you like the food. The industry then was really, really, really difficult. It was, and you have to have a great wife to understand that Fridays and Saturdays you are working. If you don't have a great partner, I don't know how successful you could be in the restaurant, even though you could be successful without being in the restaurant. But I think people will always remember as the chef or the owner coming out and talk to you or hold your hand and say, how's the meal? If you want to retain that customer base. Of course now, you put the loud music and no tablecloth, no napkins, wipe your own lip, just give me your order, let me go. And that's the way it is. I wasn't taught like that. I was taught when the customer came in, you make sure from the beginning, when he walks into the door till he's out, that you've done your job. And and
because he's taught us that's one of the reasons that we're so successful, because today we still do that.
And I think part of the equation why he didn't want us to be in this business is because it was challenging on obviously on as a human being a challenging work, but also challenging as a family, right? Our Christmases looked a little bit different. Our New Year's Eves looked a little bit different. All the holidays looked a little bit different. I mean, he would be the first one to say, like, it was difficult to be a business owner and a dad all at the same time. And so, there was some things that he may have missed out on, whether it's baseball games or graduations or whatever it may have been. And so I don't know that he necessarily wanted that for us for our life.
As a kid, PJ, did you understand that or did you resent it?
No, I don't think I ever felt resentment towards it because he created such a incredible life for us. And I think that there were times where it was challenging, right, to not have your dad at your baseball game. But I understood it because he did such a great job at instilling like this hard work. And we were able to witness that firsthand, right? And so you see someone instilling the hard work in you, and it's one thing to say it, but it's the other thing to do it. And he actually did both. So I got it at a young age, like understood it.
Now you guys have what, 4 restaurants these days?
Yes.
Okay, who does, PJ? You run one or more of them?
Yeah, we're all kind of hands on deck in a majority of things. It's nice because now it's like my dad was saying, it's myself, my 2 other brothers, Nino, and we have some uncles and cousins also involved. And so everyone's got this like lane that we all stay in. And
what's your lane?
first and foremost is to be the GM of one of the restaurants, and
Which
then
one?
secondarily, we're at Barbusa. And
And
then
Lala, too.
and Lala, yeah, we're connected. But and then secondarily, I'm kind of like the marketing, advertising guy, and so I handle that. So we're all it. What's so cool? I was just explaining this to someone else. Is I think a lot of people come by these restaurants and see how, especially in Little Italy, where there aren't many family-owned businesses any longer, and it's interesting to be able to see these busy restaurants because, knock on wood, we are extremely busy and successful.
Which makes you an anomaly these days in the independent restaurant world, does it not?
Exactly, and that's kind of where I was going. It was like, it's actually kind of cool to be able to see that an independent, family-owned and operated, like truly family-owned, operated business is still thriving in a very, very, very competitive market here in San Diego. And so not a lot of times do people get to see the inner workings of how we do things, but we are still very family-owned and operated, all hands on deck.
Nino, what's your gig?
Just making sure the food's good, making sure everybody's happy, going out to shake hands with the customers. If anybody wants anything special, something that's out of the norm. Like somebody will come in and say, "Hey, can you make me this?" Sure, no problem. If I'm here, sure, I'm making no problem.
And again,
that makes it a little special.
That's the beauty of our restaurants, right? Is we're a very popular restaurant, but yet you still have that family, kind of like the Busalacchi restaurant that he was referring to. You still have that kind of general like idea of who these people are that are running these restaurants, because we're there so much and shaking hands and doing all the things that he did to make it successful. So it's like, oh, this is a cool trendy place, but I also get to see the chef walking around. I also get to see, all the servers are all super friendly and nice and remembering my name, and it's just our best compliment that I get is that a lot of people refer to Barbusa as their Cheers, and that makes me like incredibly happy in a neighborhood that doesn't really have a ton of that.
Let's talk about the food. Nino, you're the executive chef for the group.
Yes.
So technically, I guess that's under your purview, although I have a feeling that your uncle keeps a close eye on it.
I'm always calling for advice, and if I don't call him for advice, he's going to give me his advice.
So you might as well call and make it.
And I don't know if it's advice he's giving me or if he's just really telling me do this, and that's what you're do. But yes.
Tell me about the food. What are the dishes these days?
I'm gonna be honest with you. It going forward, for somehow, some way, everything comes back around, and I find myself doing stuff that he was doing at Busalacchi's.
Like what?
Stuff that no one does anymore. Pesto crab crepes. Pesto crepes with crab. This is something he was doing 35 years ago, and no one even knew what it was. And now, today, again, no one knows what it is again. So we're throwing it back in the roundup.
I think most importantly, like I was referring to before, it's like it's really when we did have all those restaurants, I think my dad was trying to really kind of mold his restaurants to the palate of the kind of general consumer, because at that time people only knew pasta bolognese or pasta with
or
lasagna, and so he was trying to create these menus to kind of fit that average American. And now we finally have this opportunity, because of social media and because of the internet and because of all these things, to like really go back and say, okay, people are more sophisticated with their palates these days. What can we do to bring back that old kind of?
I think it's not that they have a better palate. I think they're exposed to it more.
Yeah.
On TV. Now, 35 years ago, I was making octopus, and nobody. Yeah. Octopus.
Stuffed calamari, which no one had.
Stuffed calamari that nobody had at the time. You couldn't sell calamari. They give it away.
Pasta with sardines.
So those are things that I had a menu of what the palate of someone that went to a pizza joint and had a lasagna. I did the lasagna in a different, give it a little bit more.
Well, tell me, I make lasagna at home. What'd you do to it? What should I do to mine?
Well, we use a crepe instead of the pasta.
Huh?
What's that?
He said, huh?
I've never
Yeah.
heard. Wait. When did?
Yeah, a crepe.
That's why. So you've never heard of it. That's why.
Because I didn't want that real thick pasta, and when you cut it into it, it everything would come out. So we decided to go with the crepe.
Do you put ricotta in your? Do you put ricotta in your lasagna?
Yeah.
Okay, we don't.
Yeah.
In Italy, they don't put ricotta. See, that's an American thing.
Well, tell me about.
We put bechamel, mozzarella cheese, the crepes again. Then we do the sauce. Just keep layering it.
So it's bechamel as opposed to ricotta.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
And
how
is
they
that
do it.
how it's eaten or was
It's
eaten? in
100%.
Sicily?
And Sicily's like that. Yes.
In Sicily, do they make crepes?
Of
yes.
course they do.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry guys, you say crepe. I think France.
You think the French invented it, right?
Yeah. Did the Sicilians invent crepes?
No.
They invented everything. Trust me. Believe me. And if it's not invented, don't invent it. Okay.
Okay, what's the meat you put in your lasagna?
We do ground beef. Well, we could put seafood like crab. You could use a salmon. Cook your salmon, just kind of put it on top. There's several things you could stuff it with.
But you
Short ribs. You create your home. If you're using great ingredients, I always tell people, why are you afraid of taking something you like and implementing it on your dish? There is no formal way of cooking. It's take your time with something. You can't make a meal in 5 minutes. So take your time and put what you like, and you might surprise yourself.
You think American diners have lost patience because of fast casual? That when I come in and sit down and you're going to offer me a leisurely meal, I'm sitting there looking at my watch going, where the hell's my food?
Yes, I think part of that is the younger kids are, they just want to drink. They just want to drink, and they want to have, a bowl of meatballs that the meatballs cost nothing, and then their drinks are costing them $20 a drink. So they'll spend a couple $100 just drinks and meatballs, and basically they're not really sitting down and enjoying a meal and putting their phones down and kind of enjoying what's there. And wait, you can't have food in 15 minutes. Give it the time. You could get your appetizers in 15 minutes, but you're not going to get a great meal in 15 minutes. Let's face it.
The dining experience that was at Busalacchi's on Fifth Avenue, the original restaurant, night and day to what it is now. People used to go to the bar, have a martini, then their table would be ready. They sat down. It was literally an evening. You spent the whole night. They had appetizers, salad, a little bit of pasta to start with, entree, salad. After dinner drink, dessert. It was a whole evening. Nowadays, it's just let's come in, let's order a bunch of appetizers, have some drinks, and get out of here.
Yeah, I think they lost touch. I think that I really don't like to go dining anymore. Even though I do go out to restaurants and, I get that recognition. Oh, you must be Joe Busalacchi or whatever like that. But, you go to a restaurant, you walk in, you're just, how many for two? Here you go, sit down, and then the waiter comes. My restaurant wasn't that way. We find out what your name is. If I saw you there 3 times, the next time you made a reservation, I would put a gold plaque with your name on it. So I made you come back to see me. First, you got to like me, and I'll make you like my food. And that's how, things are. These days, kids are in for a drink. Give me a crab cake. Give me whatever.
Are you concerned about the future of dining as a result of that? Or are we, with all of this knowledge about other kinds of food?
I think it's important that the way the younger kids, I love the way the younger kids are today, because they'll try things that a normal person 30 years ago did not, because they're more exposed.
So they're not just drinking.
Right. But I also don't I do believe that they need to be, in my opinion, they need to be a little bit more dining and focus on, just sit down and have a great meal with your date. It's not happening, that's not happening. But I like their innovation about trying things that are that people then did not.
What's on your menu these days that you are just thrilled about?
It's really hard to pinpoint one thing because there's so many different things. He's going to step out. There's so many different things.
Joe, thank you.
Hey, it is my pleasure. I'll be back if you want to talk more.
Your uncle is concerned, it seems, about the future of dining. Are you?
I can't say what I want to say. He was so calm this morning, usually intense. You can't even. I gotta say, maybe he was nice to us this time. This was being nice to us. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't say good morning. He's coming back. I better stop.
He showed up and he left.
He showed up again.
Seriously, what do you think about the future of dining in America?
What I think is, like I said, I think my uncle's taught me everything comes back around. Patience, everything comes back around. So I think maybe the dining experience, the way people used to eat, I think that's going to come back someday. Maybe not right now, not in the next 2-3 years, but who knows? Maybe the next 4 to 5 years.
I think we're losing it, but I think it in one way, form, or shape, fine dining has gotten to be very extremely expensive. And I think what's keeping these people away is basically saying, well, I'm going to go out and I'm going to order a ribeye, 18-ounce ribeye and a baked potato, and I'm going to pay $120, okay? And I think that our food has gotten out of hand too. Even, 3 meatballs, 4 meatballs, and you're paying $18, $19 for that. I think that's why things have changed, but a typical meal, I think a high-end meal should be no more than $50 a person, having a 3 or 4 course meal. That's easy to do.
Can you make money at that price point, gentlemen?
Yes, you can. It depends on the size.
I think Nino disagrees with you.
No. I was thinking of how expensive things are. See, he's taught us something.
If you came to my restaurant and I had to do that, I wouldn't give you an 18-ounce ribeye. Obviously, I'd make the ribeye smaller. I'd give you a New York, or I would give you something where I could give you a little bit of pasta, a little bit of salad, not a whole big salad like this. Yes, I could do that, minimizing my menus and the cost of doing business. The only thing is rents are a lot more expensive these days, which I think eventually the people are going to smaller and smaller restaurants because the bigger restaurants have a lot bigger rents. But in a small restaurant, if you're a mom and pop, it's very difficult. Well, you'll make it if you got your kids working and everything. But if you want to be big time, you got to have, the money, and you have to have the backing, and like I said, $20 for a drink. I don't agree, but that's what it is. $15 for a drink. I mean, but that's not the way it is.
It's not easy. Everything's expensive. I mean, we look at the food when it comes in. Prices change all the time. It's gotten really expensive.
So what's the future for Busalacchi Restaurant Group?
It's the future for everybody, not for just Busalacchi Restaurants.
I think
see how it goes. He's back.
I think I'm going to take it to. I'm going to open up a restaurant in heaven when I die.
He thinks we're going to heaven. See?
And I got those nice older people that I used to serve. They'll love my food. They'll love it.
You guys are great.
Joey, come say hi. Here's one of the other. There's another guest appearance.
He did teach us one thing. When you go to a restaurant, order the most expensive thing. You can't go wrong. And he's actually right. You think about it. Go to a restaurant, you order a crab cake for $35. Just buy the lobster for $70 and call it a day. That's it. You're done.
Who has just joined right before we say goodbye?
Hi, how you doing? He's the oldest son of this guy here.
Oh, and
that's the one that was supposed to be a doctor.
Oh, and you're Joey?
Now he's a surgeon at the restaurant.
I'm Joey.
Why'd you do this instead of being a doctor?
I don't know. I honestly don't know what I got myself into, but I love it. I was born in it, and what else? What else would I do? Honestly, I mean, this is make people happy, make people smile, get in a couple of fights during the day, argue, but then we all come down to it's all for one reason, anyways, to make people happy. I mean, it really is.
Guys, you are terrific, and more power to you, and best of luck going forward. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to chat. And it's reassuring to see a family business doing well.
We're blessed.
We are definitely blessed. Thanks to me. No.
The Busalacchi family on Culinary Characters Unlocked. I'm David Page, and I'll see you next time.